Welcome back, everyone. We are Living Libraries, February, Stealth. Today we're talking about values. This is number 2 on our lecture series. And so let us just dive right in. Last week, we talked a lot about whatever we talked about. What are we talking about, guys? Credentials, background. There it is. Talked about background. We talked about values. We touched on values a little bit. Talked about likes and dislikes. And it is my hope that you really took the time to consider that you really took for yourself. Again, I know this stuff about me. I've already done this, right? The more you dig into you, this is why Seasons and Signs Academy is the school of you. And we're going to be doing a lot more of this in a lot different ways. But you need to know you. You need to know you better than anybody else. Authentic leadership starts with authenticity, which starts with you. And there's a lot of you to discover. There's a lot of your stories to dig into. And that really starts here. So think about your background. Think about your values. Values are tantamount. Bill George wrote a whole book called True North. And it's a great book, and I suggest you read it. Which, again, maybe eventually I'll start teaching some of these books that I've been kind of rooting through for my dissertation. But the premise of the book is you need to know your guiding values and your guiding principles. We'll talk a little more about True North, but people nowadays, especially in business, but even in life, authentic leadership, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're a business person. It doesn't matter if you're an educator. It doesn't matter if you're a dentist. It's leading out of your own unique self. And that has to do with values that you are very aware of, that you uphold no matter what, no matter who's watching, right? And so it doesn't mean you're perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody can live to their values perfectly all the time. Things happen. We do mess up, but it is a guiding point, an alignment, an allowance for alignment. So let's talk about the self. What would you die for? When we're trying to figure out our values, and I like to do jarring, shocking things like this, I love to have us think about our mortality. Because one guarantee in life is we're gonna die. The minute you're born, you're already dying. And I know we don't love that, but it is true. So I love you enough to let you know that you're on your way out the minute you're on your way in. So what would you die for? Because we're all gonna do it anyway. When you are on your deathbed, you don't have any regrets. Nobody does. But I would rather you think, I'm comfortable dying because I have done everything I wanted to do while I was living. When you get very conscious of the end, this is like goal planning as well, and we'll talk about goals next week, but when you get into thinking about the end, you become very aware that life is fleeting and shit just doesn't matter when it doesn't matter. So what would you die for? And I actually, I didn't start with the story yet. I like to start with a story always. I'm going to give you my first story now. Because when I'm thinking about death, I have been suicidal. Really, really suicidal. Not just thinking about it. There are stages I found to depression. There are stages I found to everything. And when I was going through everything I was going through with my arrest and everything, what I found was I thought October 4th through the 9th was when I was escorted off the property, when I spent time in jail, and when my mugshot went viral from California to Australia. And I was, oh my God, you can't even imagine. Shamed, mortified, isolated, grieving, every negative emotion you can possibly think about, I was experiencing. And that was on the back of, because that was October, that was on the back of carrying the secret for 6 months, because it had happened in February. And October, I'm sorry, that's 10, that's 8 months. So 8 months of carrying this secret where I try to live a very upright moral life and love people and, love God. And I didn't. And I had to keep showing up for work, knowing at any time what happened in October could have happened, because I know how things work, right? When you do anything, it's going to come out. And I knew it was only a matter of time. I didn't know he was going to save everything and show it to his friends, but what could I expect, you know? And so I lived for 8 months with this kind of crippling fear, anxiety, and depression, embarrassment, and shame, which only I knew. And that was hard. And then my cat died traumatically, which I can't even talk about right now. And that was hard. That was in September. And then I was arrested and publicly shamed. And that was hard. And I thought in October and November and December, the months that followed, that I wanted to kill myself. I actually, when I was in the bathtub, I would look at my arm, look at this part of my arm, and I would just imagine slicing it and ending it, which I know is morbid, but living libraries. And instead, what I did was I got this tattoo of the stars, of my horoscope, of Aries. And I reminded myself that I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a season. I don't know how God's going to use this. And that was okay. October, November, December. I got this December 23rd, 2018. And it really released the pressure. It, like every time I looked at my arm, I stopped thinking about killing myself. And I started thinking about the future. And okay, there's nothing irredeemable to God, right? I've always been a Christian. We will talk about that later. But so I thought I knew in October, November, December what it was like to be suicidal. And what I found was I only really had suicidal ideations, or one step above it. Because what I actually found out after I helped my sister plan her bridal shower and her bachelorette and attended her wedding, which was so hard because I knew I was this like black stain on her beautiful white day. And so that was really hard, especially because I pled guilty to a crime in April that I really didn't believe I committed. The crime was intent to harm a minor. And like, I know me. I've never intended to harm anybody in my entire life. Not the people who've done me wrong, certainly not people I care about. That doesn't mean I haven't harmed them, obviously, which is why I pled guilty to the felony. I'm sure I did harm, but it wasn't my intent. It was never my intent, right? So that was hard. I thought that was hard. That was April. I cried through the whole thing. The kids' parents were there in the courtroom. I couldn't even look at them. I wanted to really kill myself there, I thought. July 23rd came and I got convicted. Talk about some soul crushing stuff, guys. I don't have words for that in this moment. And then all of that was okay because I had this hope. I had this dream that I was still going to get my PhD. It's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But in this whole process from October 2018 to July 2019, I actually had still put in applications for my doctorate and I was still getting responses. And I thought I was going to be able to go to the University of South Carolina in August. Well, August 23rd came and went. 23 apparently is like a pretty significant number in my life, I guess. August 23rd came and went. And I wasn't able to attend because the way the system works with probation and parole is if you put in an interstate transfer, you cannot travel to that state. And so anytime I try to travel, I have to put in a whole bunch of paperwork and things. And so what ended up happening was I wasn't able to go because the apartment I wanted to live on was on restricted property. It was on a school. Of course it was. I was going to college. So then I knew. I thought I knew for 18 months what it was to want to die for something. But no, I knew what I wanted to die for in August because I was very sure that my dream was dead and that my life was over. Now, if you've never faced your mortality like that, and I have friends who have, I have friends who were police officers and who have faced their mortality every day. I have friends who've been chronically ill, who thought they were going to die. So there's a different level of understanding of this question. All that to say, so you get a little bit of background on me, but all that to say, when I'm asking, what would you die for? It's not metaphorical. It's like actual. Like if somebody, think Cassie Bernall from She Said Yes. If somebody had a gun to your head and asked you a question, what would you be willing to take that bullet for? For me, I learned in August 23rd that I will die for my freedom. I will absolutely die for my freedom. I will die for my freedom. And that's what I thought I was going to do. Because I was like, I am captive in this life. I'm going to kill myself so I am free. Because it's all too heavy, because they put me on parole for life. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Not without anything to live for. I can't do it. Obviously, fam, here we are 2.5 years later. So the only reason that I won't even get into why that happened or how that happened. I will on the next slide. So now that I think about it, I will. What would you die for? Those are good ways to figure out your values, right? Because this is all questions to help you figure out your values so you know what you would lead from. I would die for my freedom. I would absolutely die for my freedom. What would you live for? And this is the follow-up to that story, the continuation of it. The only reason I'm alive, and I mean this very seriously, because I was willing to die for my freedom. My mother, I was on the floor for 3 days, planning my suicide, and also unable to get up because I'm so broken at that point. So broken at that point. It had been 18 months of breaking and breaking and breaking and breaking, and I was broken. I'll never be so broken again, but I was broken. August 2019. And I was living at my mother's house, and she came in, knocked on the door very gently. I was laying on the floor because I couldn't get up in my childhood bedroom. And she laid down on the floor next to me, and she snuggled up under my arm. And she snuggled up, put her little face right here. My mom, she's tinier than I am. And was like, if you die, I'll die too. That's all she said. And I knew she wasn't lying. Like, I knew that. I absolutely knew that. And so then I just at that point, I felt like I had no more tears to cry, but apparently I did. And I just felt tears leaking down my face because I didn't even have the energy to do anything. So I just felt tears leaking down my face. And my thought was really, well, I can't die now and I don't want to live. So what do I do? It was a very hard moment, very existential moment. And in that moment, I learned something, which is that I would live for my family. I did live for my family. I have lived for my family. In this moment, I would live to never bring shame on them again. In the moments where I was feeling very optimistic during everything, when the people were crucifying me all on the media, I was like, God, I want to help as many people as seeing this mugshot. That's how many people I want to help. And so for a time I was living for that. Well, actually, I still am really living for that, but for a time that was all I was living for, to know that I can help this many people. I have no idea how many hundreds of thousands of people have seen this mugshot, but I plan on helping them, right? And I'm not surprised that a year and a half later, this concept for the school was born, and now 2 years later, it's getting kind of the ball rolling. There are a lot of people who, on maybe a lesser scale, don't know who they are, and they don't know how to come back to themselves. And I want that freedom for everybody, because freedom starts in the mind. That's the thing I learned. Freedom starts in the mind. And I'll talk more about that not now, but I would live for my family. I would live for freedom. I am living every day for Christ. I've been a Christian my whole life, which is probably shocking to some people, but I've been a Christian my whole life. And I really understood, and now I really understand what it means to live for God, with God, and what it means to still be living in your flesh as a Christian. Because had I been living by my morals and values back in February of 2018, this is a whole different story. This doesn't happen. But I wasn't. I was living by my feelings. So I will live for Christ, my family, my values, my freedom, these are all things I would live for. Now, admittedly, I'm giving you these stories so you can figure out what the hell you would live for. What will you die for? What would you live for? List it out. Really think back. Let what I'm telling you jog your memories, because you need to know not everybody's values are the same. So you need to know which ones are super, super necessary for you and crucial. So what would you live for? What are your guiding principles? These are so massive, right? So after everything happened in 2020, I was like, I will not let anything steal my peace, literally ever. My guiding principle is peace all the time for me personally. Now, professionally, it's a little different. Professionally, I would say my guiding principle is respect. If you're working with me professionally, I will respect you always. But personally, I will not allow anyone to steal my peace. I will not allow a situation to steal my peace. I will not allow a person to steal my peace. I will not allow circumstances to steal my peace. And I've been poor. I have been destitute. I have been in situations where I didn't know if I was going to eat that day, if I was going to have a house that night, or if I was going to be able to buy tampons. And still did not steal my peace. I knew I'd be okay. Now, admittedly, that took rock bottom. This all took rock bottom. I am hoping to give you all this so you don't have to hit a rock bottom. So you can watch this and listen to this and be like, this girl hit rock bottom. I can learn from her without having to do so myself. Here's the hoping. But a lot of times we don't learn, or we're not willing to learn. I wasn't, Lord knows I wasn't, until we go through those hard times. So if this is finding you and you have gone through the hard time, I am sorry. I understand. Trust me when I say I understand. So what are your guiding principles? For me, peace, freedom, respect, loyalty. Well, I'm going to talk about loyalty in a minute, but peace, freedom, respect, love. Love is a choice. I choose to live in love every day, regardless of what people do to me. Love is a choice, and I choose to live in it. That's not romantic love. That's like filial love. That's like kindness and patience and understanding, seeing people and hearing people, giving them space to be, not judging them. Judgment is the opposite of love. Possession is the opposite of love. That's something I had to work through. So what are your guiding principles, right? What are the qualities that you really value? Creativity, curiosity, inquisitive nature. Here, my curious nature, I absolutely value curiosity. Not everybody does, right? So what are your guiding principles? Figure those out. What do you like? What are you willing to live for? What are you willing to die for? What are your guiding principles? And finally, this one's a tricky one. What is this hair doing, guys? This one's a tricky one, because what do I value in others that I don't do for myself is a hard one, because we don't really think about it a lot. But this happened when I went through everything. My ex-boyfriend at the time, he stayed with me. And I didn't understand how he could be so loyal when I was not. And I loved that. And I appreciated that. And I respected the fuck out of that. And I was like, I want to do that too. When I commit to something, I want to commit. I want to be loyal. And I valued it in him and realized I had never done that myself. I had been rejected so often for so long by so many people that I committed to myself and was loyal to me and nobody else. And I realized that's not going to serve. It does not serve on any level. You can't do it. And so loyalty was one that I really valued in other people and had to learn myself. So really, when you're thinking about your values, I hope these questions are helpful to you. Think back through your own stories. You know, you're always welcome to reach out my DMs. Obviously not in my comments here as I turn them off, but reach out my DMs at Michelina Eichel on IG, Instagram. And I hope these are valuable to you. I value education. I value free education. So that's why I'm giving this to you here. But if you want to donate, by all means, donate. I would say actually I have to figure out how to do that, but donate, like, share, subscribe, all the things, because really, I think it is so important for people to have access to this kind of information because it's not prevalent. It's very hard to find. how to be authentic to yourself. People haven't laid it out, they haven't methodically done it. And like I said, that's kind of why I'm uniquely qualified to come to you in this way. So hope this is all helpful. Appreciate you being here with me. Hope that you enjoyed the stories, and I hope that you really think critically about these questions. You're the only one who can answer them. I have resources and tools as well. So like I said, feel free to reach out on IG, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time.